Are you good at every facet of the real estate business? Can you be in two places at once? Do you enjoy working while on vacation? If you answered no to any or all of these questions, you wouldn't be alone. Many agents love the freedom and flexibility this career allows us to have, but eventually, slowly, and persistently, we transition from, I work my business around my life, to, I work my life around my business, to, I don't have enough day left to live my life. Sound familiar? This is where the power of partnerships shine. Shouldering the load of listings, juggling the busyness of serving buyers, and making sure we can make it in time to our kids' piano recital. Or any other milestone moments we want to be present for, both in person, but present in mind too. And today we are looking at 3 truly incredible examples of partnerships that will give us insight into what it takes to create something special that you can share with someone. Hey, Coach B here. Wouldn't it be nice to know if a partnership is a good fit for you before investing all that time, money, and energy into one that ultimately doesn't work out? Well, you're in luck. We created a quick and easy quiz called How Partner Ready Are You? Based on all the incredible insights we got from our interviews for this project. And that includes the successes and the failures, even the epic ones. If you want to take it for a spin, you can find the link in our show notes on my website, bradenwheatcroft.com, or DM me the word partner1 on Instagram. That's the word partner, all lowercase with the number 1 on Instagram. Okay, let's dive into the episode. To kick things off on our partnership journey, we are jumping into a time machine and headed back to June of 1992, to a sunny Saturday that got shockingly dark fast.
My clients had difficulty selling their previous house. They got caught in the market. The rates were going up. When we went to sell this house, they said, this time we're going to listen to you and we're going to price it right because we found another house we want to buy. So this was on Thursday. We do the paperwork and I said, okay, we're going to have an open house on Saturday. So I trot up there on Saturday with my signs and set them all up. And about 10 minutes later, I'm looking out the window and I see these guys in the forensic suits in the ditch. My open house is on the corner. So the ditch comes in front of my open house and then wraps around. And there's a whole bunch of them in there in the ditch. And then they start taking this yellow line, wrapping it around. I go out there and I said, excuse me, but you're killing my open house. Like, what are you doing? He said, go home. So I said, well, what's going on? He said, go home.
I remember this day very well. We were on Cecil Block. I had my open house and she had her open house up the street from me. We set up our little signs and I knew of Nancy de Castri. I probably had run into her, but never really had a conversation with her. We put our open house signs up and then I look out the window and here she is, clomping down the street in her high heels. If you can picture Nancy in 1992, she has her legs don't quit, right? And she still has beautiful legs today, obviously. But she always wore this nice skirt suit and high heels and legs that went up to her armpits. You could just see it, right? And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, what is Nancy de Castri doing clumping down the street to my open house? And she knocks on the door and she says,
I think you better go home too.
And I went, well, what do you mean? She said, close up the open house. I said, well, why? And she said, they've just put a yellow tape around mine and they said, nobody's coming. And I said, what do you mean? She said, well, they found a head in the ditch. In a garbage bag, just beside where she's doing her open house. So they blocked off the street at this point. So she puts her signs down and she comes in and I said, well, let's have a cup of tea.
I thought, well, why not? I've got 2 hours to kill.
So we sat there and we chatted and we talked about what was going on in the house up the street. We get chatting and discussing things.
And we had a great visit.
I thought she's easy to talk to. The fact that she was a young woman like myself in real estate with kids. My oldest would have been born the year before. And you feel this connection.
Sometimes there's a chemistry with people when you are aware of people and you kind of think, I think I'd really like that person, their personality, and I could potentially have a relationship with this person. But to actually have that happen, because we meet so many people in this business and it's often fleeting. So I think we were fortunate.
And after their chance encounter, they went their separate ways. They didn't have a lot of interactions after this point, with their busy businesses to run and even busier lives at home with kids. But the foundation was laid for their friendship. A foundation that was built on further when they found themselves sitting across the boardroom table from one another at a real estate board committee meeting.
We were also on a committee together. Neither one of us can remember the name of the committee.
Right. We were on that committee.
It was a board committee, and neither one of us can remember the name of it.
And there was all those men that just took up all the conversation. And oh my God, there was some great people there, but there was a few that just didn't shut up. We would look at each other and go, oh, here we go again. After that, we started becoming friends.
And that friendship was a slow burn from there. Laurie had a 1-year-old at home, and Nancy was navigating a divorce. So they had a lot going on. But later that year, they found themselves around the table again. But this time, it was the bargaining table as they tried to navigate a very difficult deal.
We ended up doing a deal. It wasn't a nice deal. The seller kind of tricked us both a little bit.
These were friends of mine. I had their house listed. It was out in Colwood. I lived in town. And Laurie had brought an offer subject to the sale of a house. And your client had an offer on the property. It was Friday night. I had people for dinner. I called my friends and said, I've got people for dinner. I can come out tonight and just get the offer signed, or I can come out tomorrow morning. And they said, don't worry about it. Come out tomorrow morning. Now, these are friends. The next morning, I phoned them and I said, okay, I'm gonna head out. And she said, we're not selling. And I said, sorry? And she said, we're not selling. We're not signing that. So all along they knew. And so my fault, I should have gone out the night before. 100% squarely my fault, which Laurie knew.
But you took accountability.
Laurie, because her client would have just simply removed conditions.
She already had an offer.
And bought the property. But Laurie didn't say, well, this is your fault. It happened, it was done, and there was no sort of blaming. And even though I knew it was 100% my fault, I was so impressed that she wasn't vindictive or angry, or because she had every right to be. And I wouldn't have held it against her if she had been, because it was 100% my fault. You could have thrown me under the bus.
I could have, but I've had a few interactions with her at that point, and I just felt that she was honest.
And there was Empire. I brought an offer from Nick and Dorley.
Oh, yes. She brought in such a crazy offer on this property, and I had a challenging seller and she had a challenging buyer. And we both kind of looked at each other and said, if we can make this work, let's do it, but it might not happen. So once again, you don't need to blame somebody. The deal is the deal. Let's work on the deal and try to figure it out.
Even though Laurie and Nancy did their best to try to put these difficult deals together, of course, respecting each other along the way, the reality was the business was taking a toll on both of them.
I think I was kind of getting burnt out with the business. Just feeling, you talk about ramping up every year, and every January you're starting from zero, and every time you make a sale, then, like you say, you're unemployed, and dealing with personalities and being out at night. We were out at night a lot in those days.
Yeah.
I was feeling really burnt out.
The business is a lot different back there than you're running around the clock. You don't have DocuSign. You're picking up, you're getting every initial. And Nancy's doing the same thing. And it's pretty easy to get burnt out fast because you're running around the clock and you don't have assistance. I can remember my dad saying to me, and I think it was about 95, I'm melting down on memory island. My battery is going on my phone. I got 2 deals collapsing. I got a 1-year-old and a 4-year-old. And I'm like, just get me back to shore, saying to my husband, I've got to deal with this. And my dad saying to me, you got to get your shit together. You've got a cabin here. It's been 2 months and you spent 1 day with your kids. And he said, you got to figure it out. Wake up call. I thought I had it together. I'm making tons of money. So what if I haven't seen the kids for more than a day and 2 months? Like, they got a great dad. When you're in your early 30s, you don't think about the ruler of life and what part you're giving up just to be running around getting initials at this time of night or whatever. Like, I look back now, as you know, my kid's 30 years old. Holy smokes. If I didn't stop and say, and spend some more time with them, I wouldn't have the fabulous relationship that I have with them now. You can say all you want, but just time goes by and you go, shit, time's gone by.
And it was this realization of the ruler of life passing them by that ultimately led Nancy to start looking at options outside of her real estate business.
One day, I said to Laurie, I've just got into this network marketing thing, and it was expensive to get into it. Didn't know a thing about it.
I didn't know what network marketing was.
I said, what do you think?
I was in a bad spot and emotionally. And so she calls and I think, this is what I need. This sounds like fun. We can get together. We can have coffee. We can have wine. We can have drinks. And it'll be something different from real estate. You made it sound so fun. I mean, that was the key, right? We were having so much fun working together. We would laugh every day. Anyway, so we end up doing this business together and we laughed for a year. We had so much fun. And so then that company went under beyond our control. Out of our control, we quit laughing. So we're sitting at my kitchen table in my house, shedding a few tears, sitting there saying, what are we going to do?
And as they sat there around the kitchen table, tears quickly turned into ideas about what their future could look like together.
I said, let's do real estate. Let's just do it and have fun. Let's not try to be the top producers. Let's not try to do the kind of business we were doing before. And I said, and let's just have fun.
I'm thinking, I don't want to go back into real estate. But Laurie was right. Like, we had worked together. We'd had a lot of fun and we had huge respect for each other. And at this point, I thought, well, what have we got to lose? Why not give it a try? We sold about the same. We had similar personalities. And because we had worked together over the last couple of years, we knew that we could. That was a boon for us, whereas I think a lot of people get into it cold.
So they picked themselves up and started to put their new partnership plan in motion.
And I said, okay, let's go talk to RE/MAX. We both agreed that we would talk to RE/MAX because it seemed like we could get an office. We seemed like a good fit. So we started up, and remember, we were going to go slow here. Well, we started January, and within the first year, we had made $100,000 each. So we'd already doubled our expectation, which that was a lot back then. So that was hit the road running. And then we started figuring it out even more, how to do this as a partnership.
I just felt this. We had this energy together, this simpatico. We just clicked. I didn't feel lonely. And I know that sounds like a very strange thing to say, but I really liked Laurie a lot. So we had this easy...
Liked or like?
I really liked her a lot. And then remember when we started selling and Laurie would phone and say, I sold this, or I'd say, I sold this. We have never run out of things to say to each other, ever.
Never.
It was so...
fun.
It was fun. It was really fun.
And that fun continued for over 20 years. Castri Lidstone was loved by clients and respected by their peers. Nancy retired a few years ago, and Laurie may not be too far behind her. Which started making me wonder, are partnerships a thing of the past? And perhaps best suited for baby boomers and less so their babies?
What are you, 3 years older than me? 4 years older than me?
I'm 33. What are you?
I'm 30, so
Yeah, okay,
3 years older.
This is Danny and Mitch. They both got their real estate licenses in 2018 and had a bond well before real estate. Despite that, they started their careers as solo agents at different brokerages, even though they had partnering up in their mind at a later date.
We had a plan that did not come to fruition, and it was to get our real estate licenses together and work separately for 5 years. We kind of always wanted a partnership, but we wanted to gain our own knowledge separately first. And I think that only lasted under a year.
For about 8 months.
Yeah, before we decided to just let's combine forces.
From a 5-year plan down to 8 months? Man, millennials are impatient. But Danny and Mitch had a blueprint to follow on how to craft a successful partnership. Their inspiration?
Laurie and Nancy.
Laurie and Nancy.
That's
for
it.
sure.
It just worked.
Mitch's last name? It's Lidstone, as in Laurie Lidstone. And having front row seats to one of the most successful partnerships in their hometown gave Danny and Mitch the confidence they could follow in the footsteps of Laurie and Nancy.
Because growing up, I could see what it was like. And I was fortunate enough to be able to spend every single August up at my cabin with my parents. Both of my parents, my mom would take a whole month off work and be able to stay at the cabin every single day, entertaining us as kids. And then as soon as we go back to school in September, she would go back to work. And that was kind of the life for the first 15 years of my life. And I loved the idea of being able to do that one day with my kids.
Mitch sharing these experiences and watching his mom thrive in a partnership. But it was also that when Mitch and I were in our little side business together, we worked so well together, and I had absolutely zero doubts that we would be great business partners too.
You see, similar to Laurie and Nancy, who worked in their network marketing business together before partnering in real estate, Danny and Mitch also had a real estate partnership dress rehearsal.
Had a
How
little
long did you
steam
guys do?
going, probably a couple of years at least. This was when I was selling boats and motorcycles. He was doing the property maintenance, and we had a line on access to ICBC written off vehicles. So salvage yard vehicles that were totaled, not going back on the road. And because of this, the drift scene that we're in, we know what parts are very valuable to take from a car like that. So we would put some bids in the auctions, get a car, throw it up on the hoist, take it apart, take every single piece, sell it off to different people, and usually make enough money to go racing the next weekend.
Kind of in business together before
Yeah.
we were real estate partners.
Yes, you heard that right. A drift team. As in a racing car team. As racetrack folklore goes, Danny and Mitch first met at the track. They were even driving the same model of car. Danny's pickup line as he first approached Mitch? Single cam coupe bros. You can't make this stuff up.
Started racing in 2012, actually. And then it really ramped up with teaming up with some like-minded fellows. 2014, 2015, we're on a drifting team, Husky Situations. And yeah, we would drive probably once a month.
Yeah.
And travel around competing. We got really competitive in 2016, so well before real estate, when we would travel around and try to win every competition.
What's the most we've ever won? We just won $3,000 2 weeks ago. So pretty much one set of tires each. and out of the 16 or 18 that we'll go through in a weekend.
I guess you really get to know someone when you're in the tight confines of a drift car that's ripping through tires around the track. Because Danny feels it was this time spent together that taught them how to be a team.
Even just on the racing team, we would make decisions as a team, and we would compromise, and we worked really well together. And also the little side hustle of flipping cars, where we both needed a part that was on one of the cars that we disassembled, and we're both, no, you have it, right? We were overly generous with each other. It may have been a honeymoon phase thing, but it was honestly just getting to know this beauty of a human, and I had no doubts that I'd be safe and happy going into a partnership. So it was a no-brainer to me, and we were both excited about it. But also, Mitch and I early on would we kind of had our side business going of flipping and selling and parting out cars too. It definitely was a little bit of practice getting our feet wet and doing a little bit of business together. Working on a team at the racetrack also allowed us to work as a team, which I think translated to our business now as well.
We'd be buying shirts and hats and things like that and reselling them at the track, running a website to sell things, running an Instagram page. We were kind of doing that stuff together originally.
It was a competitive environment. The stakes were high. And in these situations, it's when you really get to understand people's strengths. but almost more importantly, their weaknesses too. And that's where the awareness of themselves and, of course, each other has continued in their real estate business together.
Well, I think it kind of naturally evolved on its own.
The prospecting side of things, he's stronger than I am in actually getting clients and generating business.
He's a very detailed, calculated guy that has spreadsheets and he loves to see the numbers. He was doing this before we were in partners. So he brought that onto the team and he continued doing that.
Like Mitch said, it just kind of fell into place and we found our strengths and weaknesses and just kind of rolled with it.
He cares too much sometimes.
I do.
And not about what I'm doing, but he cares almost too much about just everything rather than just letting it go and just relax and enjoy things when they're slow sometimes.
Yeah, I'm the overthinker.
Yeah.
And Mitch will bring me back to reality sometimes. And he may be too YOLO sometimes, and I may be too overthinking, and then we end up meeting in the middle and it's perfect harmony. Yeah.
Personally, I think we just have the same goals.
And values.
We have the same goals and values. We want to treat people the same when we're older.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Same goals, same values, for sure.
And we want to make a lot of money.
And make a lot of money is exactly what they did working together. When asked what has been one of the biggest achievements in their partnerships, they point to the year where they earned a combined 7 figures in their 20s.
Diamond for the two of us, I think, was a huge milestone. We just when we started in the industry, which was 5 years prior to that, we never could have imagined we were as busy as we currently are and were in 2021. So I think that was a good milestone.
But it hasn't always been easy, and there have been many times where one of them has not been firing on all cylinders.
I want to be equal in this partnership. And sometimes that doesn't work out in the exact number figure, but as long as the work being put in is equal.
And honestly, it's been, I would say, out of our, 6 years together, we've probably only had 1 or 2 years where we haven't been within 1 or 2 deals of each other at the end of the year. Some deals, 1 month, maybe I won't even get anything and he'll get a handful. And then the next month, it just kind of goes back and forth.
We trust that it always
Pretty
comes
equal.
out in the wash.
I can't even think of one year where I felt like you've done way more or 1 year that I've done way more.
The cool thing is if there's a long stint that goes by where I'm slower, Mitch will actually just level things out and hand me some work to do and some clients to take care of. We're not having to be told that, like, hey, I'm too busy, take this. We're always asking each other for it.
Stresses me out if I haven't done a deal and he's done, say, 2 since I've done my last one.
Yeah.
And I feel, and that's when I start picking up the phone book and calling people that I haven't talked to in a while.
Yeah, but it doesn't go the other way at all. If I'm busier than Mitch for 1 month, there's no resentment whatsoever. No. Like, we're always looking out for each other in that aspect. Would you say?
Yep.
Yeah.
100%.
Got each other's backs.
And they have each other's backs in business and in life. So much so that they almost attempted what might have gone down as one of the worst business strategies of all time that actually turned into an incredibly life-affirming one.
Well, we tried to actually do it. We almost got lucky enough to conceive essentially at the same time. We were kind of working on it. And then we realized that was probably not the best idea to have kids at the exact same time because our business would not do very well. So we've decided to stagger it, and we both understand, and we actually kind of have the same goals with family. You know, I probably will end up having 2 kids. He's kind of talked about having 2 kids. So we'll probably play the stagger game where
Mitch takes over for a bit while I grow my family.
And then 6 months to a year later,
when he's ready to rock, I can step in.
2 years after that, it'll be him again and then me again.
I think it's the give and take where our whole partnership is based on that, right? Constantly supporting each other, right?
He says, oh, I'm only going to be turning my phone off for 2 to 3 weeks after the kid's born. I'm telling him take more time off. So I don't think there's any resentment in any way over progression in life like that.
Yeah, it'll come back around.
If you're on vacation, you really want to just put everything off to the side and not think about it, not bring phones out and just ignore it. Whereas he's going to get a little restless at home. I know he will. So he'll be my computer guy. I'll be out on the field and I'll call him and say, hey, hop on the computer and send off this document for me or something. And I won't feel like I'm on my own in any way because I'll be out doing the things in person, but he'll still be right there, I'm sure. Like,
I definitely will be. I get antsy quick.
He won't be able to contain himself.
Yeah.
And as Danny and Mitch, young realtors themselves, starting even younger families, I asked them why they didn't see as many partnerships of agents in their age group.
I think that a lot of the younger people think they have more potential than to start, because it seems like a lot of the people that are starting off in the business, their first idea isn't to go find a friend and start a team. Personally, I think that they want to know that they're getting 100% of what they're putting into it. They don't want to give away half their paycheck.
Yeah.
But then they don't realize that they're getting half of the other person's too.
I think it is a bit of ignorance and not knowing the massive benefits of being in a partnership, because as you get your real estate license, you do that by yourself, you get in. A lot of agents are solo, like I said. But yeah, I think Mitch is right that maybe they only think about giving up some control, some of their commission, versus exploring and being educated on the massive, very biased opinion here, but very massive benefits of a partnership.
So I think that they're more independently driven than wanting to work with somebody else. Maybe they weren't big sports people when they were younger and they played video games against everyone. Whereas when you get brought up working with people, playing sports, you always rely on somebody else, not just yourself.
But I also think that they haven't found their Mitch. Before we even were real estate partners, I would trust Mitch with my life.
And that trust has been tested for 6 years since they became business partners. And their team has expanded beyond the two of them to include a full-time assistant and, of course, Mitch's mom, Laurie, who joined the Cox Lidstone team when Nancy retired. But it's not just their business that's grown. Weeks after recording our interview, Danny and his wife welcomed their first baby, Caleb. So I guess Mitch is officially on the clock. At this point, it's easy to see the appeal of getting into a real estate partnership. Having someone to have fun with, support, and be supported by, it all just sounds so great. But imagine for a second that you were in a successful partnership that had been thriving for over a decade, only to find out that it's coming to an end.
We'd just come back after having a little Christmas break, and it was January 2021. And he said, "Well, buddy," he actually really had a hard time getting the words out of his mouth. I thought, oh my gosh, what does he have to tell me? This is scary.
This is Shane King from the Hatter King real estate team.
I said, "Well, buddy, I'm here to tell you that my last day as a licensee will be December the 31st, 2023. It was a real tough realization that, this run that we've been on for 12 years, the success that we've had together as a team, and especially the last couple of years where we've really knocked it out of the park, is going to come to an end. So I wanted to be happy for him. He was just over 60 years of age. Bud, you've worked your buns off. So I felt great. You really do deserve to retire. And so part of it was excitement. But then the quick realization set in that, holy shit, what am I going to do? That was scary. I didn't really know how business was going to proceed without Bruce as my business partner.
And Shane's concern was based on personal experience. You see, he had been a solo agent before, and there's a particular memory that he never wanted to relive again.
It's one occurrence that stands out in my mind. I remember being on the beach in Maui with my family. Well, at the time, I think I had probably a 2 and a 5-year-old. And year 3, I was starting to get some great success and starting to string some deals together. And I sold 3 properties here in Maui from the beach. I remember just not being able to focus on my family. And here we are on a fairly expensive vacation that I really should be spending more time focusing on my family. And I found myself working the majority of the time I was there. You're having great success, so that's not a bad problem. That's a great problem. It's just maybe feeling a little bit alone and unbalanced and not being able to enjoy the fruits of your labor with your family on a beach because you spend the whole time working. I remember thinking to myself, this is ridiculous. And I really should have somebody that can kind of look after things for me while I'm away. That was really the straw that broke the camel's back.
Shane made a call while still on family vacation to set up a meeting with a new brokerage, one that he felt would put him in a better position to find a solution to his current predicament.
Step one, move over as a solo agent and kind of put the word out there, just to meet people essentially, and put the word out there that I'm looking to find a good match for my business. I believe at the time I likely spoke to Ray Blender and likely just a few other colleagues in the office, just saying, hey, if you know of anybody, if you hear of anybody that's in a similar position to mine that you think might be a good fit, let me know. I was just looking for somebody that was like-minded, that had some great experience. I found a partner pretty quick into my search.
After a few conversations with colleagues, a name came forward that hit close to home for Shane, like literally down the street. And it just so happened that this person was also experiencing a change in their life.
I put the word out to our colleagues in our brokerage, and actually it was another member of another team that said, hey, what about Bruce? He's a great guy. In my years of knowing Bruce, ever met anybody that said a bad thing about him. Maybe you should sit down and have a coffee with him. Well, as it turned out, Bruce and I lived about a block away from each other, and we would run into each other. We had a lot of mutual friends, and we would give each other the nod at the local supermarket, but we didn't really stop and talk to each other, didn't really know each other all that well. We just had a lot of great friends and mutual friends, and I'd always heard that he's a great guy. And so that was kind of my first recollection, actually, is meeting Bruce is probably at the supermarket or the Home Depot. He was in a marriage and a business partnership. I understand that his partnership has just ended. The marriage had ended first, and then the partnership ended very soon after. I think I probably called him. I called him and I said, hey, listen, I understand that you may be considering a partner, and I just love to pick your brain, so let's meet for coffee. Starbucks, right around the corner.
So they set up a date, and as it turned out, it kind of felt like a date.
I remember it was a busy day in Starbucks. Anybody that knows Bruce knows that he's just such a happy-go-lucky guy. Ear-to-ear grin. We sat down and had a coffee, and I told Bruce a little bit about what I was looking for. He explained that he was just getting out of a relationship, and he was wanting to start out fresh. I was just looking for the right person. So it did really feel like we were dating. Didn't take long, to be honest with you. I'm going to say just a couple of months before we ended up partnering. He was ready to roll. I was ready to jump right in. Yes, I was the new partner.
So they were both eager to jump into business with each other and didn't let an overcomplicated structure get in the way.
It was old school. We got together and we discussed kind of what sort of business we were doing at the present time. I, again, was only 3 years into the business as a licensee, and Bruce at that point had probably had 25 plus years of experience, maybe closer to 30. So we kind of compared notes on where our business was at that point in time. And then we just quickly realized that I think we both are very fair guys. And we just kind of realized that the only way that this was going to work is if we made it a 50-50 partnership. And we just jumped in with both feet. We shared all of our income. We shared all of our expenses, and we created a brand and a team that worked for us. We wanted it exactly 50-50. If Bruce is working 50% of the time and I'm working 50% of the time, the results will follow. So why would we have it inequitable? Why would we have it unbalanced? And I'm working 50% of the time, the results will follow. So why would we have it inequitable? Why would we have it unbalanced?
And this approach of being truly equal partners in their business started to pay off fast.
Within the first couple of months, we both knew that we were going in the right direction. We always said that 1 + 1 felt like it equaled 3. We were both absolutely amazed at how Bruce's business and my business coming together and putting our partnership together, sharing our brand, sharing our team name, putting our systems in place instantly. And again, instantly, I mean within a couple of months, it started to equal 3. It felt that we had with our clients, I guess maybe a lot more credibility as a team. Yeah, and I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but at the end of the day, it obviously worked out. So we were flying.
And although that math was in their favor financially, it wasn't just their bank accounts that were growing. It was their friendship too.
And it's funny, a lot of our colleagues over the duration of our partnership have always said, wow, I cannot believe how well you guys get along. So we always kept it light. We always had fun. We always had a great deal of respect for one another. We had a blast. We really did have a good time working together. We very rarely disagreed. Like, we had different opinions on properties, which was great, and values and such. We would come together on a few things, and Bruce might be a little low on a property and I'd be a little high, and we would kind of hash it out together, which was great. But aside from that, we never had any real arguments. We just always got along.
Just because they got along so well doesn't mean it was always a walk in the park. Shane reflects on their 12-year-long partnership and when it was pushed to its limits.
COVID-19, the pandemic. That was wild. That was insane. In 2020, and we all remember it well, but there were 3 months in 2020 where our business and the world kind of shut down. March through May. And then we were allowed to do virtual open houses. I'll never forget it. Bruce and I both went out and bought gimbals. And so here's a couple of guys that aren't comfortable taking photos of ourselves or selfies. And here we are now out doing open houses on Facebook with our gimbals. And one of the funniest moments was I'm at an open house doing my virtual open house, and I'm watching Bruce on a computer do his virtual open house. He's walking through the house, showing off the house, and he fell down the stairs. It was probably the funniest thing I've ever seen. But anyway, so I digress. But honestly, those times were really weird times for us as realtors, especially for us that were technologically challenged. We had clients that had to sell their houses because they bought something or for whatever reason, but we had some urgency. We did what we had to do. We dug deep and we got the job done.
And boy, did they ever. As is often the case, our biggest challenges become our biggest opportunities. And that COVID-19 market set them up for an incredible achievement.
We were the number one team here at RE/MAX Camosun at our brokerage. Was probably the best year that we ever had. We have surrounded ourselves with some great teams here at RE/MAX. So to be awarded with the top team that year was unreal.
So with their biggest and best year not too far behind them, you can understand why Shane was a little surprised when Bruce gave him the heads up that he was ready to hang it up. But Shane is an optimist.
I kept checking in with him. Bruce, are you sure? December the 31st, 2023, are you sure? Are you 100%? He said, yep. He said, my wife has told me that if I go to work on January the 1st, 2024, I'm going to get a frying pan over the head when I get in the door. So I knew at that point he was very serious. I was in a little bit of denial, but also I didn't, admittedly, I'm a bit of a procrastinator at times, and I just didn't want to have to think about it. So yeah, it was about a year of denial. I was in my comfort zone. We had a really good thing going. It's no different than being in a marriage. Let's say your wife is asking you for a separation a year and a half from now or 2 years from now. What do? It was really no different.
And this left Shane in a tricky situation. They had built up this incredible business and formed a truly deep bond. And Shane didn't want to go back to doing deals from the beach again. All that was further compounded by Bruce's comfort level with people finding out he's retiring.
Well, it was a bit of a tricky one because we were trying to keep it quiet because Bruce didn't want to announce his retirement to the world. I found myself in a bit of a predicament because, okay, well, we're going to keep this quiet, yet I wasn't sure if I was going to maintain the business on my own, whether I was going to partner with somebody else, whether I was going to join a team. I didn't really know, but I knew that I had to start talking about it publicly in order to find my next path. That was scary. I didn't really know how business was going to proceed without Bruce as my business partner.
And Shane's fear of the unknown was completely justified. You see, even though we have spotlighted 3 incredible partnerships in this episode, the numbers were not in Shane's favor to duplicate his success in a new partnership.
Oh, God, I'm going to blindside him.
And I just felt guilty. And plus the market was turning. It was hard.
One of the advice that I like, but I don't think it's super constructive, was just to straight up don't do it.
Our research and experience have uncovered the harsh reality that most partnerships fail. And when they do, they often fail epically. And that is exactly where we'll be picking up in part 2 of the Power and Peril of Real Estate Partnerships, where we examine the failed partnerships of past to better understand why good things go bad. Thank you for listening to Season 1 of Reflections, the Power and Peril of Real Estate Partnerships. If you are a little more curious about whether a partnership is worth pursuing, please do yourself a favor and take our quiz, How Partner Ready Are You?, by checking out the link in our show notes or on the podcast page of my website, or simply by DMing me the word partner1 on Instagram. That's the word partner, all lowercase with the number 1 on Instagram. Make sure you stay tuned for the bonus episodes, which are lightly edited full-length versions of the interviews we did on this project, except for the anonymous ones. Don't worry, your secrets are safe with me. Thank you again for listening to Reflections. I'm broker owner and business coach Braden Wheatcroft. Coach B out.